We'll talk more on that point in a moment. To get the intros done first, in the bottom right side of Lilac Crest, we have our blue Terran player, Team Liquid's Bunny.
In the top right, as the pink Zerg, it's JonnyREcco.
So again, I will be the first to admit that was a dirty, disgusting, amazing build out of Bunny. Kind of like watching a Dead War Prison win. You're just like, well, that wasn't pretty, but it worked, and we got to move on. Somehow he'll find a way to live with himself. But this map was a good map choice. I'm not sure if it's a loser's pick or if it's veto system. There's a lot of reasons Zerg like this map as a pro, but another big part of it is you just don't have that dead space to abuse in the main with these Liberators, not even the natural, especially not... I guess you can maybe a little bit on the third, but it's still not by much. So he won't have to worry about Bunny going for that build, because it's not going to work on this map.
Yeah. I do wonder what is like the case though. Is sure, it's not as good of a looking map for the build, but if you beat someone so handily with a build like that, like what is the choice? Like, okay, obviously he's weak against that build, but this map isn't quite as good for that. I don't know. It's totally up to Bunny. But one of the things that I would be worried about, of course, is that your Zerg opponent isn't trying to adapt to the situation in a macro sense, but is rather just saying, okay, that's a good build, let me try and cheese you. That's always going to be, the scary point, especially on a map like Lilac that has 2 entrances for their roaches or lings, whatever they send at you. So keeping that Reaper alive is going to be, of course, important. He did lose it to slow lings in the last game. I doubt that'll happen again. That was probably just like a warm-up type mistake, but if it does, then of course it's an opportunity for JonnyREcco to try an all-in, not have to deal with the potential of any clever build anyways.
Yeah, and I want to not spend too much time talking about the build from the last game, but just one last point on it too, because it kind of relates directly to the last time we cast Bunny, where he won the Lycan League. We were wondering, like, okay, he's got all these builds we know he's got available, but he wasn't playing any of them. He played the same standard Terran every game. Was it for WCS? And here we're in the Dreamhack Qualifier's first game of the first cast is that Liberator build. I think Bunny is not holding back today.
Well, nothing too dangerous looking from JonnyREcco quite yet. You can just go ahead and slap down a Roach Warren now and just, hope the Reaper doesn't bother scouting first of all, because some Terrans really do not get to the back of the mineral line, despite having a Reaper, or you just don't care it's scouted and you're hoping to get some pressure and some control over the game anyways, but nothing yet, and JonnyREcco might just be trying to adapt in the mid game, the late game, whatever you want to call it. Whatever he's looking for, rather. Like, is he looking for ultras potentially? That could have been his plan last game. He could be stuck in the, it's funny to call it an old mentality, but it already is. Get to ultras as fast as possible. It's something that worked a month ago, but not so much anymore as Terrans have adapted.
Reaper. I got Liberators on the brain, right? Reaper did get to the main, but honestly, not too much really revealed through this. For Bunny, I'm sure he's still a little bit tentative, like, okay, maybe there's a Roach Horn in that main I didn't see. That third drone's a little bit fishy on timing. The Reaper sadly goes down. I don't know that he's going to be crazy enough to burn a scan, but if there's one map I would suggest doing it on, it would be this one. Because again, there's no wall off in your natural, and even if you do wall this off, you still got the back door to deal with.
It does suck that Reaper wasn't allowed like one more scout, or technically any scout, into the back of the mineral line. But he did see the third, intended to be taken, or it looked like intended to be taken. Even if that was a fake, which can be very clever, he was going for a fairly safe build. Tank drops have probably the safest outcome. Well, maybe Banshees actually might even be safer, to be honest. But a tank drop is one of the safer options. But this is actually the tank drop that he killed, was it like Nerchio or something on Arena with.
Yeah, because he had the unsieged tank and it caught us really off guard. A quick thing to mention on that too, it's kind of funny, I've somehow not pieced this together until just this moment, but you had HOTS which was so relatively balanced, you could do any build on any map, or one build applied to all maps. Legacy of the Void has a lot of like map-related builds, and for example, you brought up the tank drop thing. I love it because this is a map where you're typically going to see Nidus Swarms more often than not, and that's what you're going to want to have tanks for. So the way builds kind of factor into the game much different than they were in the past. But kind of falling back to this location, drops the tank on the other side, tries to save the Marines, only gets one. Still good damage with this so far. As long as he doesn't lose the medevac, as long as he doesn't lose the tank, this will deny mining for quite some time.
I did not expect him to try and save the Marines, to be honest. But, definitely saving the tank and the medevac is number one priority. They definitely cost a lot more. The tank still has some potential to do damage. It also has potential to scout an attack of any type, and add some damage onto it.
So,
Once again, a Liberator.
oh, this plus that tank. That's going to be kind of gross.
Yeah.
One lane can certainly...
Now, this does delay Bunny's overall macro game, especially if he's like microing and he's, you know, falling behind on macros a little bit.
We've talked about this so many times, though. It's always Bunny who does this, though, right? Like, any other player can't keep up with like the control of having to focus this while macroing. Bunny typically is like the only player who consistently does.
But for instance, watching his mid-roll count go up high right now is not on purpose.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He's definitely. Yeah, could throw down those extra barracks a little bit earlier. Third CC.
He missed a gas timing, you know, by a couple of seconds here and there. And he did
But
do this exact build and do quite a bit of damage, and still ended up losing the long macro game because his production and whatnot was later.
Yeah, I mean, there might be too much dedication on this for sure. It's hard to really say right this moment, but I do. Again, really applaud. He's completely shut down Money on this third. There's barely gas going, and that's about it right now. Spore Crawler can't reposition because of the tank. Oh, yes, he can try. Maybe move the Liberator temporarily, but not for long.
Yeah. This is certainly good damage. And the fact that once again, JonnyREcco has no counterattack threatening made this like an even bigger deal. Like, damage is great, but control over the game is cooler.
I am worried though because there is no third CC for Bunny. This is all production. This is all tech. That's where all of his money's going. He's got a really large standing army, and honestly, if he moves across the map before bang speed's done, before the spires finish, maybe he just straight up wins. But this is a little bit alarming because the longer this goes, we all know Terran, like, it's good to a point, but here comes that third CC, what feels fairly late.
Yeah, it certainly is late, and I'm imagining that there are two like outcomes that could come from this build for Bunny. One is the faster third CC, and the other one is a faster push. Potentially, if JonnyREcco had been going Roaches and Ravagers, Bunny would have played that longer macro game and figured an attack wouldn't work, but as he's always seen his speedlings, maybe he thought differently just because of that.
Thank you to Turl 2, or is it Turls 07? I can't actually read that. Turls 207. Either way, thank you very much for the new sub. New sub hype. Tanks in a really nice spot. Banelings do not have speed just yet. It's seconds from finishing, but even if it finishes, taking care of these tanks is not going to be an easy task, but it's just going to be like leapfrogging up the high ground, low ground. One medevac on the front line is a little bit low. Ling's coming from behind. Good attempt at a flank from JonnyREcco, but with the Banelings going down, the Marine's going to clean the rest of this up, and that's going to be really bad.
So, of course, JonnyREcco had to wait for Baneling speed, which in turn made Bunny's stim hit just in time.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's going to be it for JonnyREcco, it looks like. Bunny, of course, with some really good strategies in TvZ, overall looking in good form. But I think also just JonnyREcco, yeah, he didn't like TvT. He said that in the beginning, and I think kind of showed through his play.
GG.